Good morning, church. As you're finding your seat, we want to introduce you to a new video series that we're going to call High Points. Basically, what we want to do is we want to celebrate what God is doing in our congregation and in our community. As in the first in the series, we're going to meet Andy Young, who's a new member of our church, and I want you to hear about his powerful testimony. So be looking for these in the coming weeks. I think you're going to be blessed.
I grew up in a very agnostic and secular upbringing. I grew up with very secular parents, and we had a pretty loose affiliation with, I guess, a fairly liberal church back in Kansas. But church, God, theology, it just wasn't discussed or applicable to our lives. There was no godly men in my life to guide and teach me, but my father was still a very morally centered man. I had a lot of bad church experiences when I was younger. I saw the televangelists go crazy. I'd seen the scandals, a lot of things that looked like scams or pyramid schemes or something, and that's what I thought Christianity was all about. I even had a youth pastor, when I asked him a tough question about heaven and hell, just pat me on the shoulder and say, "Gee, that's a tough one, buddy. I'll pray for you." I felt there was total hypocrisy. It was all about money scams and power plays and how to control the masses and a bunch of lists of do's and don'ts. And that's what I thought Christianity was all about. In 1993, I joined the Marine Corps, and I got really good at poking holes in the faiths of other people who always wanted to try to save me. I met Christians who just didn't seem very intellectual. I started reading philosophy, but mostly just philosophizing. I always wanted to discuss faith in God, but the fact was I just liked to argue, and I felt like I got pretty good at it. Even though I was an atheist, even the most tough-nosed atheist will slip up every now and then and find themselves believing in God. I was no exception. But the majority of the time, I really felt I was wiser than all that. I got out of the Marine Corps. I met my wife, Kelly, in college. She was a Christian, but she didn't have a lot of the deep answers to all my questions, and we found ourselves up late at night having late conversations. It was very aggravating. I wanted the relationship, but this Jesus thing kept getting in the way. So I wanted to read the evidence and prove the Bible wrong to her, show it to my wife, and move on with our lives. In my studies, I came across apologetics. Suddenly, I found that Christianity was a thriving intellectual worldview. And there was this great struggle that I had that ultimately led to my conversion. First, it was an intellectual conversion. In my mind, I knew that God existed. But now I'm wondering, I'm in trouble. So my mighty struggle happened with this new information, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. I couldn't tell you the date or the time exactly, but I know there was a point in my life where I completely surrendered to the fact that God exists and Jesus is his revelation to the world. Today, I teach high school and college youth ministry. I want to teach at a secular university as a philosopher, where a lot of students, a lot of young people begin to lose their faith. So I'm attending seminary at Liberty University, and I'm seeking a PhD in theology, and that's what Jesus has done for my life.